each and every regulation is written in blood.
5,000 workplace deaths. Every year, one engineer thinks he can stop them.
Because at the end of the day, an accident is not most of the time a random incident.
From building Formula race cars to joining what he thought was...
It's like, lads, this is a really cool scam.
I'll join you guys.
That scam became Protex AI. YCombinator backed, $54 million raised. Enterprise customer like Marks and Spencer.
We had like a nice bell kind of a curve that's going down and down.
Okay.
But the behaviors were actually reducing over a course of time. So I'm like, okay, this actually worth it. If there's anything to do with security and people's private information or all this stuff, it shouldn't be there yet.
This is Sachin Soman for Protex AI.
Welcome to AI Hacks with Liana. I'm Liana Temescu, the founder of SunnyLabs.ai, which is the top AI cybersecurity platform that ensures AI agents are developed securely, privately, and in a compliant way. In a nutshell, we stop AI agents and chatbots from getting hacked. We also create educational content and courses on developing and using AI securely. Let's get started.
Welcome, everyone. Thank you so much for being here. Today, we have Sachin Soman, who is here with us from Protex AI, and he's a founding engineer, actually, at Protex AI, and Protex AI are a physical safety solution, all about using AI for physical safety. So super exciting episode to chat through that today. So yeah, let's get started. So thank you again, Soman, for being, or Sachin for being on the call. Yeah. So basically, let's get started with the very first question. So really, before we go into anything about Protex AI, let's go a little bit before that. Let's talk about your history and your interests. Like, what was it that, initially motivated you to go down this career path? What was it about you in the past that made you feel that this was the right way to move forward?
Yeah, thank you, Liana, for having me on the podcast. So for me, I really liked engineering and especially building stuff. So initially I did electronics and I was really into hardware and building cars and all that stuff. But then one of my friends actually introduced me to software design as well. And that's where I realized that, me as an engineer, I can have more impact by it being in the software space. Like just having a laptop and internet and a kid with a lot of dreams, you can build apps that could potentially affect millions of people. So I was like, this is where I need to be. You don't need to have really fancy equipment or anything like that. You just need dream, aspiration, and a laptop and internet. And that's how you can get started. So based on that, I was like, you know what, I want to be in the tech sector. So that's how it started for me.
And did you, what was it, did you do anything beforehand that made you think, okay, so this, so I want to kind of get creative in this way? Like, were you sort of playing around with Legos or anything like that?
So initially, while I was in university, I was really into building Formula cars. And that's
Formula cars?
Yeah, so I was part of certain Formula teams where we every year build cars and we competed. So I was really already into the hyperspace of building stuff.
What are these Formula cars? Are these just like Formula One kind of cars?
These are student Formula cars. So we do race it in like actual race circuits and all that stuff. So back in India, we'll every year try to build it, compete it across with hundreds of other universities and colleges, and then try to raise it.
How do you build it? So you have your degrees in electronic engineering. So roughly, how do you go about building a Formula One car?
So I think there's a lot of patience and a lot of breaking stuff. So obviously, I was part of first electrical subsystem. So we initially started the electrical in-house systems for our cars and all this stuff. So for me, there's a lot of experimenting. Like we spend like months and months of our summer vacations and all that stuff just sitting in a lab trying to build stuff, breaking, burning. A lot of things happen there. Eventually, we will reach a point where we have prototypes. So it's just a going through for years and trying to do it. It's not something that over the night, like for a month, you do it. It's like I did it for 3 years straight to get to where it is.
Oh, wow. Okay. Wow. Okay. And so then you like built these cars and then you raced them?
Yes, it's
So humans were driving in the car.
humans were actually right. There's all safety measures and everything. Like we actually have to submit our cards to appropriate bodies, and they will actually look into regulations and all the stuff. It's a lot of safety checks and everything. Once everything's approved, then we are allowed to do the racing and even the drivers and everything. So the full safety and all the stuff is their number one priority. And so once that is done, we can actually let the drivers race, and it's very fun. Like we were in the actual race circuits where we actually do that.
Well, we'll have to post up a photo of these cars in the background.
So in my LinkedIn, actually, the poster is about the cars that I had and their city names with.
Oh, perfect. Okay. Wow. Okay. Wow. Okay. Okay. So you did electronic engineering and you were making these cars for your undergrad, and then you decided to switch over to some computer science, and then you moved to Ireland as well.
Yeah. So actually, when I was doing that, I got an opportunity to go to Italy to do a bit of a minor in robotics as a exchange program. So that's when electronics and software came into picture both together. So when I was doing robotics, I realized that, okay, there's a lot more we can do with software as well. So that opened up quite a bit. And that's when I realized that, okay, maybe I should be focusing a bit more on the software aspects of it. And that's when I moved to Ireland to do my master's in computer science.
Okay. And what was it like? Why did you choose Ireland? What was it like? You have to make use.
So I wanted to do a conversion degree, and conversion degree is where you have engineering background. So how do you translate that engineering skills into software side of things? So UCE had something called a master's degree in computer science conversion, where you can have people from any different varieties of backgrounds try to use their previous skills to actually come in and navigate into the tech sector. So that is a very interesting topic for me to do quick into. So that's how I ended up here.
Makes sense. Yeah. We're here because we're actually filming in Nova in UCD. Yeah. In Nova UCD. So you're back to sort of where that started.
Yeah, exactly. Like I've always used to see Nova UCD and I like wonder what's this building.
Yeah. You're actually inside. So those are, yeah. I love it. Great. So then you did electronic engineering, you did the kind of conversion, or sorry, the sort of robotics course, and then the conversion course into computer science, and all of that sounds all perfect to start then in Protex AI, because it's all, like it's physical, it's about the sort of the physical hardware side as well as the software side, if I understand that correctly. So you basically started as a founding engineer in Protex AI. So tell us about that journey. Like, how did it start? How did you go from your master's in UCD to moving into Protex AI?
Yeah, so it's a bit of an interesting transition there. So while I was finishing up my master's, I got to do a fellowship called Major League Hacking. It's basically 3 months.
Major League Hacking?
Yeah, it's a vocabulary. So that's where people from around the world can, for the next 3 months, try to build projects. It's a very intensive thing. So I got to meet a lot of people around the world. One of my colleagues actually I met through that. And we started making different products every 2 weeks. And I started posting that on my personal website. So I had a website where I had all my things built. And
so what kind of things did you build?
And so it's pure software, like a VS Code extensions or some kind of like a
VS Code extensions.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Like
the IDE Visual Studio Code, yeah.
Yeah, exactly, where you can programmers can do stuff on it and make their productivity improve.
Like what was the extension?
So it is named To Do++, okay? Main was
I love it. Oh, yeah.
because it's basically a kit integration where while you're doing PRs and all the stuff, you can actually in the IDE itself take notes, and your engineers who are part of the PR will also in their IDE have all the notes and records of all the PRs that you made. In the IDE, it says you don't have context switch between, what's there in the PR and the GitHub, what's there in my code. It's a one unified interface. So we're
for sharing notes across different engineers.
Yes. So when you're making a PR pull request and you're reviewing a code, I'm like, okay, this line seems to be something that needs to improve. So I can put it there in my VS Code extension itself, VS Code itself, and the other engineer who is collaborating with me in real time on that line of code itself be able to see what's happened. So you can have a collaborative space, especially just during COVID. So everyone's working remotely. So we wanted to somehow bring everyone together.
Okay.
And so I was building all this kind of stuff every 2 weeks.
Okay. That's great. 2++.
Yeah.
Is it still live?
It was live until our credits exhausted because I was a student for a prospect.
AWS Cloud was not.
AWS is expensive. It's great, but expensive. Yeah.
It was on one of my friend's account, and that died. But surprisingly, had like 300 people using it. So
yeah,
I thought that was a win, right?
The student projects can go out and be used in the real world.
Yeah. So that's how it started.
Yeah.
And I had this portfolio of my website where I had all the things that I did. And during COVID, I joined a Slack channel by someone called Mark Hugh. He was building a company called Grad Guy.
What was he called?
Grad Guy.
Grad Guy.
It's a Dublin startup where they were trying to connect non-engineering people, actually. And I was like, hey, Mark, so I have my website. This is how it is. I can try to build stuff. Do you know anyone? And Mark was like, that's a nice website. And we entered the conversation over that. A couple of weeks back, I get the email from my co-founders, Dan and Kiram, saying, like, hey, cool website. We have an idea called Protect AI. Do you want to join? And me as a young graduate, I mean, just out of uni aspect, why is someone actually messaging me? This is very suspicious. Yep.
You expected it to be really like a lot of hard work for you.
And I was like, lads, this is a really cool scam. And it's boy, we're playing into this.
I was like, I'll join you guys.
So where were they at this point? So these are the founders of
so,
Protect AI.
So Dan was in Dublin and Kieran was in Limerick.
Okay, in Ireland, yeah.
Ireland. And I was here in, literally next to UCD.
Yeah.
And I was like, you know what? Let's hop on a call. What's the worst that could happen? And I did. And they were very charismatic and they had this idea and the vision. And for me, I was like, what's the worst that could happen? I can learn a lot, and that's all that mattered for me. As a young grad, I wanted to make sure that I am learning all the skills I can to make sure that I can progress further. And I was like, yes, let's do it. And that's how PropTech actually started. And initially, it was just an idea.
Yeah.
When I started with Kieran, CTO, I was like, okay, what are we going to do? And he was like, you tell me what are we going to do? And I was like, oh, no.
Okay, wow. Okay, that's great. Okay. So, I don't know if I shared this with you when we met previously, but I know Dan because we were both in Trinity, in Trinity College Dublin, and we both participated in Trinity Entrepreneurial Society. So I know Dan from there. You're the co-founder of Protect AI, and I also know Mark Hughes now, he did Grad Guide before, and now he's doing Solid Road. So another YC startup. Yeah. So they all participated in the Trinity Entrepreneurial Society. Back in the day.
Dan is actually a superstar back in Trinity, but so he's still coaching for the football and all that stuff.
Okay.
Yeah,
so much. He had a lot going on. Yeah. And okay, so this was during COVID. You decided to join these two guys working on Protect AI. Talk through how it got started. So, talk through, where did they get the idea for it? How did it evolve? And what was your role in shaping that?
Yeah. So there's quite a bit of credit to Guylaine and Kieran there because they did all the hard work. So it started with a story where Kieran's aunt, she used to work in a company where a young worker there actually got into an accident and passed away, and which was quite preventable if they actually found out what's the behaviors that is happening in that site. So when Kieran's aunt actually told Kieran about it, they were already experimenting with computer vision then, and Kieran were already experimenting with computer vision, like its drone technologies, other kind of connecting CCTVs and all that stuff. And then they realized that, okay, there is a market for making sure that you can connect to CCTV cameras and find out the behaviors that could lead to accidents that we can create. And that's the initial inspiration for that. And then they did market research for quite a while. And therefore, they did their homework to find out, okay, there is actually a really good niche where we can actually, first of all, have a market and at the same time do something that is actually impactful. Because at the end of the day, we want people to come back to their home, to their family. And so for me also, like these two goals, like tech, there's cool tech that's happening, and also making sure that we are being responsible about stuff. And so that's how Tech Vision started. And then what we did was that we had that Kieran also had a proof of concept set up. Then based on that, they applied to YCombinator. So we actually got into YCombinator during the COVID period. It is sad that it happened during COVID because we couldn't go to San Francisco and all that stuff. So
You were based in Ireland.
Yeah, so we were based in Ireland. Okay. So
it's a great opportunity, though. You could be based in Ireland and still be in YCombinator.
Yeah, so that's part of tech, I suppose. Like, yeah, even if you are anywhere in the world, you get access to this talent and also. So for me, during my Combinator, I got to meet a lot of engineers, and then Dan and Kieran and all this stuff had to look into the business and other critical aspects of it as well. So it was a very eye-opening experience for everyone.
And what was it like? What did you learn? What are the kind of the main takeaways that you all had?
Yeah. So for me personally, what I was quite surprised about is that startups at the end of the day are businesses, and businesses require you to be making sure that it is scalable and sustainable. It doesn't matter how cool the tech is. If people don't want it, it doesn't make sense for having a startup. So in YCombinator, what we realized is that make sure that there's a product market fit as soon as possible. The tech can come later. So build your proof of concept, get it into the hands of the customers, get those initial feedback. And if the customers are like, yes, this is something that we will use, then focus on it. Otherwise, pivot as soon as possible. Once we know what our direction is, then we can focus on our technical side of things, making sure that scale. And also there's no point in like investing your large AWS resource and all this stuff into building a highly scalable system if no one actually uses it.
Yeah. One thing that I'm exploring with myself as a thought experiment really is this kind of concept of pivoting. This idea originated from a LinkedIn post. I won't be able to find it to mention who it was, but just this idea of you go in, you start a startup with by you, I mean, kind of generically, you start a startup with an idea, you're passionate about a specific thing, and then you have to pivot potentially to, kind of try to aim to get product market fit. But then that could lead to the idea could actually end up being sort of completely, or the thing that you're working on could end up being completely different than your original idea. It could end up being completely different to what you were originally passionate about. But from what you're saying with Protex AI, the original idea was still kept there. So it wasn't so much that it wasn't like pivoting to a whole new area in a way. It was still kept within the same thing. So my point with that is pivoting. I think you need to have like this original vision in mind initially, so that even if you are pivoting, you're only sort of pivoting tactically rather than like the whole thing that you're actually passionate about.
Yeah, exactly. So that's why for Dan and Kiram, they actually did the market research for like 6 months straight before they started executing on the idea. And that's very important. Like, they check everything out, make sure that, okay, there's an idea and that makes sense. So for us, we didn't have to pivot. The only things that we had to pivot was in terms of the product that we built. So I was responsible for building the product engineering team. So as an engineer, so we didn't have a dedicated PM at the time. So we would think that, okay, this feature is cool. Like, and we built ideas and this is amazing. And then we actually show it to the customers and like, we don't want this. And then we're like, oh shit, okay, pivot. So actually the features and all this stuff might change, how it's being used, how it's being implemented, what's the UX of it, what is the customer wants and all this stuff. But the global vision still remains.
Yeah. I think that part is very important. And you mentioned that Dan and Kiran did a lot of market research. Can you talk through generally like what they did? How did they go about that helped them to know this is a solid idea?
Yeah, so it's quite an extensive and painful operation that they did. What they did was that they actually went to different places and like they pitched their ideas. They went even to like a warehouse and all the stuff and talked to like basically the people who are working there and also the health and safety managers and all the stuff, and asking, hey, did this make sense? Does this prototype make sense? And based on that, the initial feedback itself, you get some kind of idea. And they did this over and over and over for 6 months. And then what they did was that they created these prototypes. And then they go to investors. For example, in Trinity, entrepreneurial stuff, they go to all these kind of connections and then they talk about it. So it's just a matter of creating a mesh network of people who you have and then getting those ideas and getting those feedback. It doesn't matter if they are experts or subject matter experts. You get inspiration from really, really distinct people. And that's, at the end of the day, what makes a business tick. And they did that for quite a bit. Just even by going to like Limerick, Dublin. Our first customer was actually a Dublin Port Authority.
The Dublin Port Authority. Okay.
Yes, it's what.
Okay.
So we actually went there and we ran a pilot with them. So we didn't know exactly if it would work or not, but they were quite aligned with what we are trying to do, and they also wanted to be like part of the solution, and they were like, quite interested to do it. So we actually were able to deploy our prototype with them and see how it's working. So when you actually talk to people, they are also ready to help you out. It's very interesting that you would never think that some people would want to actually help, but there are organizations and all this stuff, they actually want to be part of your solution and help you out.
And how did they, or how do you find these kind of people? So, for example, what if you don't have a network with the Dublin Port Authority?
You start small, right? As in, so let's say if you're a student, you go to the university accelerator, you talk to the people over there, and then you have somewhat of connection there. From there, you can build up your connections. So it's not going to be one day effort. It's a long-term process of actually creating networks. So it takes probably 3 to 4 months of actually meeting, talking. And I know that's the beauty of being in Ireland. What I found is that everyone is quite open. You send a LinkedIn message, like in my case, I got a random email and that's like, let's try to figure things out. So, and
you mean from the guys, from the founders? Yeah.
How they met me through is Mark Hugh, and that is through a random selection that I said Mark.
Yeah.
So the power of networking is quite significant. It's just going out there, being uncomfortable,
putting yourself out there,
and be like, "Hey, I am this. I want to have a 5-minute chat with you." And that 5-minute chat can probably lead you in a couple of years to a different arena.
Wow.
So,
yeah. Wow.
So that's why I tell to students as well, don't be afraid. What's the worst that can happen? Either a no or rejection or a no reply.
Yeah. That makes a lot of sense. Putting yourself out there. Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about what Protex AI ended up doing, and how it came to be what it is now. Talk about what it is, and then we'll kind of dive into the AI parts of it as well.
So Products AI is computer vision for health and safety. What happens is that we have a device that we connect to existing CCTV cameras. So we scan through this CCTV footages, and our device has an AI system that will actually has a rules system and all this stuff that will actually try to detect behaviors, any type of behaviors. For example, a forklift that is driving 40 kilometers per hour, all those kind of things, and it keeps a track of it. And over a course of like weeks, we are able to identify patterns of behaviors that could lead to accidents, because at the end of the day, an accident is not most of the time a random incident. It is actually for last 6 months brewing, like there are behaviors that is actually leading to an accident. So what Products AI does is that we try to find these leading indicators that before it actually becomes an issue. So that's what we do. We go and connect into these large warehouses or enterprise companies and have it detect these kind of behaviors that could be. And it's also very important to note that we are very conscious that it's a privacy preserving system. So we only detect general behaviors and patterns.
General behaviors, patterns, yes.
So, and it's not a tool that is not it's for any other means.
It's not used for tracking individuals.
Yes. So our main goal is, and it's always will be, to make sure that we detect things that is behaviors and not a tracking system.
Yeah. Okay. Makes sense, because it's very easy to go into the tracking system space. But again, you're sticking to the original vision of
And we want to make sure that everyone comes back home to their families.
Yeah. So talk about some of the positive success stories that have come out of it.
Yeah, so we actually had a lot of clients, particularly one of the clients we had was M&S. So
Margot Spencer's, okay.
So what we used to do is once we connected to their systems, we were able to detect behaviors and all this stuff.
Is this within the stores or in the warehouses?
The warehouses.
Okay.
And so we were able to detect like minor issues such as people accidentally going into areas that they shouldn't. Like, for example, there's a road where there's high speed traffic, and so human behavior, sometimes you'll forget it. So we pick up these kind of issues, and what happens is that we actually visualize this like in a graph. So initially it was like a big graph that started, and once we implemented the product system, what we found out is that the issue starts to slowly decrease. So we had like a nice bell kind of like a curve that's going down and down.
Okay.
But behaviors were actually reducing over a course of time. So we detect these issues. People were able to do the training and all the stuff to the staff. They get educated, okay, this is what's going to happen. This could lead to an accident. So the behavior starts to reduce. And we're able to get a really nice curve. And they also presented to us, and we also saw it. And they're like, okay, this system actually works.
This actually works.
Good. And I kind of screenshotted my laptop of the curve. I'm like, okay, this actually works.
Okay. Yeah. If that's open, maybe we can share that. But if you can take away any sensitive information from it.
Before we continue, I want to take a moment to tell you about something that I'm incredibly passionate about. And that's the work that we're doing at my company, SunnyLabs.ai. As AI becomes more integrated into our daily business operations, we're seeing a critical gap in security. AI applications are getting hacked left and right through sophisticated attacks like prompt injections and data breaches, and most organizations don't even realize they're vulnerable. And that is exactly why I founded SunnyLabs.ai. We're an AI cybersecurity platform specifically designed to make AI applications secure, like chatbots and AI agents, and to stop them from getting hacked. We help ensure that AI agents and chatbots can be developed securely, privately, and in a compliant way with the likes of GDPR and the EU AI Act. So we give organizations the confidence to keep innovating without compromising on security. But we don't just provide the technology, we also create educational content and courses about the secure use and development of AI. because ultimately the best defense starts with actually understanding all of the risks. Plus, we work directly with companies to help them to develop their AI strategies and implementations securely from the ground up. With hundreds of companies already using our platform and with major AI compliance regulations like the EU AI Act coming into effect, there's never been a better time to get your AI security right. If you're working with AI in your organization, or if you're curious about how to implement AI securely, check out sonnylabs.ai. That's SONNYLABS.ai. Now, let's get back to our conversation.
Okay, so basically you're finding that you're providing this kind of computer vision to this device, to the CCTV cameras in the likes of warehouses like in Marks and Spencer's. And then that gives your system information about the patterns that individuals are doing, and that those patterns, that information then gets given back to presumably health and safety personnel within Marks and Spencer's, and then they take that information and they train their staff to avoid mistakes, to avoid potential things that could lead to problems. And then that has the knock-on effect of ultimately keeping people safe, protecting people. Yeah. So that's great. I love that. Can you talk about how the role of AI getting really big in the last few years, so like with the likes of ChatGPT coming out in November of 2022, and then that leading to kind of an explosion of all of these large language models, but also multimodal models as well. Talk through how that ultimately impacted your startup, and did you see that that kind of happened hand in hand, because you were already working on the startup before sort of the AI explosion. Talk through this.
Yeah, so we also joke that we started the AI company before AI was a big thing.
So Protex AI started before like ChatGPT. So like you started
Before it became famous.
You started the trend. You started the AI trend. It was actually yourself.
So it's very interesting for me to see as well, because we try to help, try to make sure that we incorporate all this AI solutions and innovative stuff, so we are actually part of the solution as well. One particular place that we actually found quite impactful was surprisingly in how we write code. So large language models, we were always quite curious as to how impactful it is for doing code reviews, analysis of our items and all this stuff. And what we realized is that it is actually a powerful tool that we can leverage. It is not there yet, but the pace at which it is going, it is going to be the future of how we write our code and all this stuff. So we actually experimented with Devin, Claude, ChatGPT. There was actually quite a bit of backlash when Devin was released, where people were like, this is a marketing hype. But we were like, okay, we want to actually objectively see how these systems are working. And surprisingly enough, it is not there yet, but the system, the tools and infrastructure is there for these agentic systems to be able to analyze code. And so we actually, in our systems, when a PR is made, we have our own systems where it goes through our own internal coding standards, practices, and all this stuff, and gives feedback to the engineer before another engineer comes in. So that saves quite a bit of time, because a code review for another engineer could take a significant amount of time. So if you can smell the code, do the linting and all this stuff by the AI agent and give a feedback, that shaves up probably 30 to 40% of the time that another engineer has to work. And also when you're working with very large code bases that is built by different teams, and other teams has to combine together, there is also a gap in their knowledge. And so what we do is that we have our entire code base indexed using LLMs and all this stuff. So if another engineer from another team wants to understand exactly the code base or like a particular part of it, rather than having to talk to another engineer and figure things out, he can actually do like initial analysis by like, hey, how is this interacting? How is this code set up? So
it's great for documentation and training.
Yeah, so the actual onboarding part has been cut properly in like 60%. So even when a new engineer joins another team, like because everything is indexed, they have a detailed documentation as to the style, how it is being built, what are the gotchas that is there, and also even how to build test cases and everything. So it is pretty cool how it is. And I personally have used Claude as well. So I
not code.
Code as well, yeah. So the way I try to do code, it's not exactly white coding, context coding as in
Text engineering now, yeah.
So that because I have the context of all things that is happening, what I will install Claude code to do is be like, okay, these are the test cases that I want to build. Here, please build these test cases for me while I can focus on the actual code part of it.
Yeah.
So I can actually, writing tests is actually more time consuming than actual writing of code.
Yeah.
So this helps me quite a bit in offloading that part of it.
Want to hack an AI in 30 seconds? At sunnylabs.ai, we've built a playground where you can learn how prompt injections work and why they're the biggest threat to AI systems today. Try real attack techniques, see them succeed in real time, and understand exactly how hackers are breaking into AI chatbots and agents right now. It's completely free. Just register at sunnylabs.ai and start hacking instantly on the playground. No experience needed. You'll be amazed at what you can break. sunnylabs.ai. Learn to hack AI before someone hacks yours.
Can I interject and ask about, so that's all super, super interesting. I have a few things there actually. You said that you're indexing the code. Talk about how are you doing that? Kind of at a high level. So for anyone that is listening and is considering doing the same thing, do you have some advice for that? And then kind of follow on question from that is, how are you making sure that you're not just quote unquote vibe coding? Like what are some of the practices that you are putting in place? And I know you said that you already know the code base. So that's in many cases, vibe coding is not all the time, but it often can be done to create the initial prototype. But yeah, talk through some of these things. How did you index the code and what do you mean by that exactly? And then how are you using that sort of code base or that process to help you do this context engineering?
Yeah, so essentially what at least we try to do is that when an engineer makes a pull request, we'll have our LLM systems generate documentation. So this documentation is created and then we'll actually have a repository of it already in place. So let's say I'm going to take an example of a framework that we actually use. We use Devin as well. In Devin, what we can do is that we can actually create wikis. So it goes and analyzes the code for probably 4 to 5 hours, and then it starts to create creating documentation. So whenever a PR is made as well, a big chunk of documentation is added over a course of like 3 to 4 weeks. So by indexing, what I mean is that we create a really comprehensive convex data, basically, or a text documentation of how the entire system is. And LLMs are pretty good at it. Like, you need to make sure that you actually be the driver where you tell them, okay, start documenting this side of the module or this module, and then you work with it to actually create a really big knowledge graph, essentially. So that's all what we are doing when we are making the indexing.
And how are you, so when you're creating this documentation, I've also tried to do this, and one thing that I've run into is that the AIs, the LLMs, whichever one you're using, I can often give you like too much information. It can just go a bit overboard. And this sometimes it just doesn't reflect reality. It's sometimes it's saying what it should be or what it thinks it should be. How are you making sure that that code, like that documentation, actually reflects reality and is practical, and isn't sort of wishful thinking on the LLM?
Yeah, something that's very important, and that's what we realized, is that LLM shouldn't be the main driver in your engineering side of things. It's more like a tool and a co-pilot. So at the end of the day, the engineers should make sure that they review it and they have a full context to it. Otherwise, it's just gonna hallucinate or go in a wild goose chase. A very important analogy I want to make is that it's like a calculator. So when calculators were invented, there's a lot of people saying that, oh, no one needs to know mathematics and all this stuff. But that's not the case. It's like, if you don't know calculus, no matter how fancy your calculator is, you can't run calculus operations. So that's the same thing here as well. Like, software engineers are quite relevant. You need to have your context. You need to have really good knowledge. Then you can leverage it. A really good example you can do is that you take a junior dev and senior dev, give them the same LLM tool, and ask them to build the same thing. Same LLM will output two different code of very different quality.
It's non-deterministic. So yeah.
So at the end of the day, it is the engineer that is doing it.
Yeah.
LLM is just a tool that is enhancing their productivity. That's all.
And that's a positive message as well, because I think a lot of people are terrified that AI is going to come and take their jobs. And while we're seeing the likes of layoffs, unfortunately, happening, there definitely still is a need for engineers and humans in general to do work. AI and these LLMs and these different AI agents, they're coming in and augmenting the people.
Yeah, so the other thing also we need to look at is that, it is offloading some of the tasks that is probably repetitive or automatic. And then we have more time to focus on other big, important things. So it's not taking over your job.
Yeah.
It is just helping you enhance your job so that you can focus on more important things.
Cool. So what are then, in terms of context engineering, what are the practices that you are putting in place? You've already talked about some of these in terms of reviewing the output of the AIs and so on. But what are some of the other practices maybe that you have in the planning phases of using AI for coding and so on, for programming? What are you doing to make sure that you're getting as good of an output as possible?
So quite a bit of it comes from your personal knowledge as well. So what we mean is that, yes, AI is being used for everything, but we initially need to do our own homework. So for me, what we do is that if there's an architecture to be made, I do my own homework where I actually try to make a prototype, see all the edge cases as a gotchas and all this stuff, try to find out the business requirements as well. And then let's forget about the AI and make my own full analysis and everything. And once that is done, then I actually create a PR, like a AI equivalent documentation, which I submit to the LLMs and all this stuff to see if it makes sense. And I have, if I'm using Claude Code, funnily enough, I'll have multiple agents simultaneously work on it. So Claude can actually create Git work tricks. So you can have the same Git repository, have 4 or 5 agents work. Then I'll give to the 5 agents and see what's happening.
And you run that in parallel.
Yes.
See which ones just do the best job.
Yeah. But what I found it is, at the architecture level, it is still us that needs to have all the information, and we are the ones who are driving it. Now, how a function is going to be implemented and all this stuff, like a small isolated function, we can let LLMs read it as a black box. It doesn't matter that much. We still need to be on top of it, but I can, for now, guarantee that it's going to work as it is if we make sure that they're isolated and are 20 lines of code. What's the worst that could happen? So we should be at the top of our game.
And when you say isolated, how are you making sure that that what the AI agents are doing are isolated? Because I think this is also coming to the sort of area of the risks of using AI in this space.
Yeah, so we should make sure that we don't do wipe coding. Wipe coding is where you let the AI system build everything from scratch. What I would recommend is that TDD and what's traditional development, but enhanced using AI. So you yourself will be able to aware of, how a TDD system should be. It needs to be an isolated system. It needs to have 100% core coverage, or at least really good core coverage. Follow those practices. Make sure that the AI system that actually write those tests for all these systems. Like if you have really good test cases and all this stuff, you can let the AI agents go and build things, and then you can have it run, validate, and we also validate as well. So once you have that safety framework in place, you can let those systems run with minimal risk. Obviously, there's got to be risk. It's not a deterministic system. You just let people. AI also will make mistakes. Especially, you need to make sure that if there's anything to do with security and people's private information or all stuff, AI shouldn't be there yet. I'm a bit skeptical at the moment to let AI deal with it. In that case, it is going to be fully managed by engineers exclusively.
And what kind of scenarios is it that you're very careful around that you're talking about for security and privacy?
Yeah, so for example, anything to do with authentication systems, infrastructure, like doing infrastructure, we need to be really razor focused. Like cloud implementations, when I tried to experiment with stuff, I found out that there could be places where, AI systems propose stuff which is not the most eloquent way or like secure or even cost efficient. Like let AIs run Terraform modules. It sometimes creates instances and all stuff that's not required. So there's a lot of human intervention required, especially when building infrastructure. There's also other areas that we need to be very careful. There's in logging of data. A lot of LLMs consume quite a bit of these information, especially if you're not careful. Engineering practices wherein you log customer information, PII information, which we shouldn't be, but people make mistakes, and then AI systems will consume and either send it to their servers and all this stuff. So we need to be very careful about where AI touches and what AI can consume. So there needs to be a framework set by the organization itself before they let AI do that thing.
Yeah, so the actual privacy aspect of what you're using AI for to make sure that the LLMs don't end up sending that information back and training their own models with your customers' private data.
Exactly. And it's funny that when the GitHub Copilot started, you could actually prompt it to output random engineers' data also because it's trained on publicly available information. So it is very funny to experiment with it and see what AI systems have distilled and also. So we need to make sure that those guardrails are in place or have our own self-hosted systems to make sure that data resides with us, especially in EU and all this stuff. We should be very, very mindful.
And how are you looking at the regulations in the space? So we are, and I know that Protex AI are based in a few different countries, but we are based in the EU, and there are several regulations there, making sure that people's personal data is kept safe, and the likes of the EU AI Act now as well. How are you looking at that?
Irrespective of in the EU Act and all this stuff, I do believe that those information should always and forever be very, very secure. That should be a non-negotiable irrespective of what we are building. And in our engineering organization, we kind of take it very, very serious.
So basically, these regulations, the requirements of these regulations are more of a bare minimum, it sounds like.
Yeah, exactly. There are certain things that you should always be aware of. Like you shouldn't be putting customer data into a database, and because that's potential disaster that's waiting to happen if even if we have good intentions, there could be human errors that could lead to like data breaches and all this stuff. So there's like a argument that having regulations reduces innovation, but it's always 90 degrees. But I do believe that there's reasons why regulations are there, and we need to put that first into engineering itself and make sure that engineering and regulations are in the same direction. And once we have that mindset, we can start building stuff, and it becomes a lot more frictionless. And making sure that, so it's same with security as well. Like when you're building a SaaS application, always make sure that the security aspect is considered in the architectural level itself before you build it. It shouldn't be a forced afterthought. It's when that happens that and they scale things up quite fast, things break, data breaches happen, and consumer data goes into the public.
Yeah, that's I think that's very, very key, that the purpose of the regulations are ultimately about protecting humans overall, and really some of these some of the requirements are the bare essentials,
So in health and safety space, there's OSHA regulation, and there's this I don't remember who told me, but each and every regulation is written in blood.
Okay.
Health and safety there's a reason why some things are there. It's because behind the scenes something happened and then they brought it. So because we work in the EHS space,
That's chilling. I'm getting goosebumps.
I keep that in mind as well. I'm like, okay, probably we should have something here as well, because we need to make sure that customers' data and everything is quite safe. Even line data should be safe.
Yeah. Everyone should have the right to private data. Yeah. Okay. So I think we're starting to near the end of our conversation. One thing that I've been asking everyone at the end, we've talked about it briefly, but it is around any AI hacks that you have that you're using, maybe personally, and any AI tips. We've talked about the coding ones, so maybe other than the coding ones, if you have anything that you're using it for particularly.
So one thing that I'm trying to experiment with, especially for AI, is that as AI is growing quite powerful, is for financial well-being. I know it's a bit of a
Financial well-being. Okay. Yeah.
I know that people are quite skeptical when using AI for data analysis and all this stuff. But realistically speaking, imagine having your own personal data analyst with you all the time. So if you have a local instance of an LLM and all this stuff, I wouldn't recommend putting it in the cloud, all your information. But if you have your own stuff, try running some data analytic operations using LLMs. It might be quite surprising.
For what? What kind of use cases? So when you say financial well-being, how is it?
So for example, how we manage our expenses, how is there like anomalies that is happening? How can you make sure that you are paying your taxes on time? Prepare planning for your future, your pension. I tried to do those kind of stuff with my own local LLMs, and funnily enough, 2 days back, Claude actually released enterprise for financial companies. So it's like, okay, this is the direction that they're going as well.
Okay.
So it is more for me to see where the LLMs are going. But in terms of coding as well, every day there's so many things happening.
Yeah. So these are the two kind of main areas that you're using them for, coding and sort of the financial health.
Yeah, and for general the stuff as well, like just to like ChatGPT is so prevalent right now. Like it's more like Google at this point. And now I always exercise a bit of caution there because I never know if they're hallucinating or not. But it is surprising how much I have reduced my dependence on, let's say, Stack Overflow or Google. Like even for my mom and dad also, they don't directly go to Google. They just put voice GPT and then have like 30-minute conversation with it. And I think my dad has political conversation.
I think that's a trend with dads now, isn't it?
Yeah. So it is interesting where it is going up.
Yeah, very, 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 very interesting. There's a lot of use cases for it, you know, from the coding side, from the personal side, all kinds of conversations, and it's, you know, acting as a new browser in a way, and then even the use of AI then in the likes of computer vision and helping to keep people safe, like you're doing with Protex AI. So yeah, very, very interesting conversation. Thank you so much, Sachin. I think this was a very insightful. Any last things you want to say before we wrap up?
No, so the only thing that I say is that if you're a student and all this stuff, it's a very exciting time to be in. Imagine having basically programmers or like an educational support agent that is there with you all the time to build stuff. So don't be afraid to build stuff. If you're like an 18-year-old, you have an idea, just try it out. Who knows what will end up. In like a couple of years, you might be able to build your own stuff.
You might be able to build your own AI startup. Yeah. Amazing. So yeah, thank you so much for this. For this interview and for all of your work that you're doing with Protex AI, helping to keep people safe as well. That's very, very cool.
Thank you so much for having me here.
Great. And thank you also, very importantly, to all of our listeners. So please do make sure that you like this episode, that you follow us, and also that you share this episode with your friends and if you found it insightful. So thank you again, Sachin. Thank you, everyone, and see you next time.
Thanks for watching this episode of the AI Hacks podcast. If you liked this episode and want to see more, we release new episodes every week, so be sure to check us out wherever you watch your podcast. And don't forget to check out sunnylabs.ai to secure your AI agents today. Thanks for watching.